nasotracheal suction kit, and you'll need some sterile gloves just in case the sterile gloves in the package don't fit you, and you'll need a packet of lubrication. Okay.
Okay.
So you go in and you say, you know, I've assessed my client's lungs. I hear bronchi. The client is unable to cough up secretions. He or she is currently on some. Got this from over here. Currently on some oxygen. So if you are left-handed, you're going to want to stand on the client's left. If you're right-handed, stand on the client's right. I can do either, so I'm going to stand on this side and show you how to do this. Okay. So we have our supplies. We've asked the client also, do you have any history of nasal surgeries? Do you have any nasal polyps? If I occlude this side, can you know, which nares can you breathe better out of? And if the client says, you know, I breathe okay out of each side, that's fine. You'll get your pen light. You'll look up the client's nostrils to make sure that there's no blockages. Also watch for things like deviated septums that can sometimes throw off the ability to advance your tube. So this client has no concerns. You can do a simple mask. You prefer to do a simple mask with this client, not anything like nasal cannula or Venturi or anything like that. So simple mask. This one is a partial rebreather. All right, I have my supplies, and I also need a bottle of saline solution. Simply to represent that as well. So you have your supplies, your bottle of saline, your packet of lubrication, and a pair of sterile gloves. So I'm going to start by making sure that I'm close enough to this client. I'm going to go ahead and put the oxygen on. And I want to hyperoxygenate the client, so I'm cranking the oxygen all the way up for a little bit. I'm going to make sure that I have my settings to continuous, and I want to adjust my vacuum to be about somewhere just below 120. So I want medium suction to this. I'm going to provide the intermittency of the suction with my thumb once I'm occluding the suction catheter. So Caleb, if you'll back up for just a second, I'm going to raise this back a little bit so I don't have to bend over too much. All right, so the client is currently being hyperoxygenated. Is this one of those?
Old school.
Now we are going to have our sterile field right here, so we can work just like this without turning our back on our sterile field. You don't want it way over here, because when you go to suction, your back is to your sterile field. If you have a client that is non-combative, if you want, you can put your sterile field to this side of the bed, so you're working just like this. That's fine as well. I'm more comfortable with this right here. So my client's hyperoxygenating. I open my package, peeling it away from me. I take out these gloves. These gloves don't fit me, so I just lay them off to the side. I open up my lubrication packet and squirt some lube in. Depending on which, I don't know, depending on which nasotracheal suction kits are delivered, you may be putting your, you know, when you peel that off, you may need to set that off to the side and use that as your sterile area for your lube, because then this little tray here becomes your area for your saline. If we have the other suction kits, if Ms. Welch got those this time, it's got a little tiny box in it that has a plastic liner that you utilize to pour off your saline. So if we have that little box, once we get it out, you know, it should be kind of like in with the packaging, but we want to be very careful not to touch the sterile edge, and that's going to be the side with the plastic on it. So when you open it up, the plastic serves as the catch-all for the saline. So
I think that's what we got in our practice one.
that's what you got for the practice ones? Was the
It's
ones
got the little box.
you fold it open, it's got the little box. Okay. So she has those. That's where you're going to put your saline. If we have these, then you probably need to save the top for your lube, and then you're going to pour off your saline in here. But I have that. I'm getting my package of my sterile gloves. I'm putting this off to the side for now. And remember, I have a little bit of margin that I can play with over here. I'm moving my lube over here as well. When I open up my sterile saline, always, 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 I want to lip it into the garbage can. Even if this is the very first time it's being opened, because the little plastic bits that can stick to the side, I don't want those going down into the patient's lungs. So I lip it to make sure that plastic bits, and if this is the second time it's being utilized, then I'm rinsing off the side for any bacteria on the edge or any foreign objects on the edge. So once I've done that, I'm not crossing any sterile fields. I'm going to transfer to this hand. Remember, we want to keep our hands above the sterile field, and I just pour that off into there, and then I'm putting it over here. I get my package. I'm opening up my sterile gloves. So I open them up, and then I'm going to put them on. Step back. Sterile glove number 1. These aren't actual sterile gloves, so it might be a little wonky trying to work with like sterile gloves. So if that had actually happened, I'd have to get a new pair. But we don't want to touch the top, and then step back. Remember, this is the time, if you want to get rid of your packaging before you put on your next glove, keep this thumb out so that you don't drag it into your wrist, and put on your sterile glove. All right, hands are sterile. Now at this point, I can get my tubing, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball the measurement because I want to go to the trachea. I'm going to go from the tip of the nose, looking at the tip of the earlobe, and then from there down to about the sternocleidomastoid would be about where we want to go. So for this client, I'm probably going to go in about probably about 26 centimeters is going to be the length. That first measurement from the tip of the nose to the earlobe, that's around 14, 15. That's your nasopharynx. So I want to go a little bit lower than that. I want to actually go into the trachea section. Now, at this point, I'm going to make one hand sterile and the other hand non-sterile. So what I like to do is I like to wrap this up in the sterile hand, and there we have it. Now I can take and connect it to suction. So this is now no longer sterile, and I can kind of unwind it a little bit. At this point, I'm taking off the mask, setting it off to the side because I will need it later, and putting my thumb occludes allows for suction. I suck up a little bit of the fluid, just to make sure. I dip that in the lubricant. Probably want to go about a couple inches into the lube, about like yay far. Okay, and I'm going to go.
Sorry, and all this time you're occluding.
No, I'm not occluding.
Oh.
Right now I'm not occluding. When I do the lubricant, I'm not occluding. I occluded just to make sure I got proper suction, that everything was connected,
With the
and then I just
non-sterile.
let go.
That's okay.
With the non-sterile, yeah. Once we've connected it, this whole bottom portion becomes non-sterile. We have to operate this with the non-sterile hand.
Okay.
This hand now has to remain sterile. Also, I need this in front of me where I can see it at all times, and I need to maintain tension on the line. If I don't, it might accidentally rub against my sleeve. So I'm maintaining tension on the line. If I'm not using the line, I'm letting it hang. I wind it up a little bit, let it hang. But now, I go into the nares with the suction off. I'm not occluding the suction. So we go up at an angle a little bit, and then we kind of change our trajectory to go straight in, so we're avoiding getting caught up in the nasal in the turbinates, right? So then I go in. All this should be less than 15 seconds too. I get down to the 26. This mannequin here is being a little bit non-cooperative, so I only got to 22, but let's say I got down to 26. Also, if you slip it in there and you see it come back out the mouth, that's not where you want to be, so back it up And you might need to change out your catheter if it got on the mouth. We really don't, we want to try not to introduce any kind of pathogens in there. So another technique that I like to do in real life is, because this catheter has a tendency to coil the way it was packaged, as soon as you get in here, right, give it about a 180 turn and then push it in. Okay, that'll prevent it from going out the mouth. And if you give it too much of a turn, it's going to want to go back toward the esophagus. So just a half a turn is good. All right, so we get it down to 22. I'm going to say we got it down to 26. When I'm here, this is when I start to suction. And I'm suctioning. When I suction, I make my thumb go up and down like this. And I know your ATI video shows you to do this as you're pulling out. I think that causes more discomfort and trauma to the client. If you choose to do that, it would be acceptable for these skills. I choose to just use my fingertips to twist the catheter back and forth so that I'm getting full rotation. So I'm doing this and I'm twisting back and forth, and I'm also pulling my hand back at the same time. So that's pass number 1, or for each set of passes, you can do 2 to 3. I know ATI also says, you should only do 2 passes before stopping for oxygenation. But I do 1, I look at the line, I clear the line, I go back in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was 3. Now, if the line is coming back clear, I might be done. If I still am getting a lot of mucus, I need to do another set of passes. So, hyperoxygenate the client for 1 minute. 60 seconds have passed. I'm also always monitoring the client's response to this procedure. If the client's getting way too winded, I may need to take some time out. Yeah. I also prefer to just leave that kind of dangling. You can hold the mask onto the client's face. Just don't jam it onto their face. Just hold it gently onto the face.
So would you want us to say if the
Encourage them.
client tolerating procedure well, I'm going to continue?
Yeah, if the client's tolerating procedure well, but I'm not seeing the line is cleared yet, I'm going to continue. So, once we have a lubricated path tube, you never have to relube. So once lubricated, that's enough. Right? See how I'm keeping this high? I don't want to drop it low because it might catch on stuff. So I keep it high and I keep it tight. All right, 1, 2, 3. Also, be careful not to touch the client's face, nose, lips. So don't get your hand too close. And then twisting as I pull it out. All right, that looked a lot clearer. I think I'm going to do 1 more pass. Okay, it's coming back clear. Clear the line. We're done. Supplemental oxygenation for a moment. Clean up my mess, throw everything away. Come back to the client. How you doing? Feeling more clear? Yes, I am. I auscultate. Doesn't sound as raucous as before. Not as much secretions bubbling in there. Client's oxygen saturations have improved. Now I'm going to go and document. My assessment piece was client complaint of unable to clear secretions, lung sounds rhonchi to auscultation in all lobes, utilizing a 14 French, I don't even know, this is probably 14 French, utilizing 14 French NT suction catheter. The client was suctioned for, you could say the number of passes. So I did 5. For 5 passes, providing supplemental oxygenation at 100% in between sets of 3. Client tolerated procedure well. Lung sounds are clearer to auscultation. Sets have improved from 90% to 96%. Client reports relief in breathing. rails up ×2, bed alarms on if they're a fall precaution, call light and reach. And then, you know, don't leave your client on 100% oxygen if they switch them back over to nasal cannula or something for a little bit. That's it. That's all there is to an NT section skill.